Welcome back to another video in the 12 Days of Painting series that I'm doing. Today we're going to do a painting with a little bit of a southwestern flair. So let's get started. For this painting, we're going to work in some muted colors. We're still using the same three colors that we always use, but this time we're going to make some of those earthy, desert-like colors. I'm going to put out a little phthalo blue, a little quin magenta, and a little benzimidazolone yellow, titanium white, of course, and glazing liquid. Glazing liquid will keep things wet and workable. Okay, we have our palette set up. And as always, I'm working with my two brushes. Everything that you need to know is in your description. Let's start off by drawing a little simple composition with our paint pen. We're going to work with one of those lovely kind of mesas that you see in the southwestern desert, like New Mexico. So we're going to start with that mesa. We'll have another hill here, and maybe another one right in front. That's our basic composition. Okay, we're going to have that beautiful turquoise, flat turquoise sky that we see so much in the Southwest, in particular New Mexico. So let's mix up a beautiful teal. We're going to start with a little bit of phthalo blue and quite a bit of titanium white. Now this will make just a simple light blue, but we want to give it that turquoise flare. So let's grab a tiny bit of our yellow and just push it slightly over into the turquoise range. That might be just a tiny bit too much yellow. Let me grab just a tiny bit of phthalo blue. There we go. That's just what we want right there. It's that beautiful, brilliant turquoise sky that you see so much in the Southwest. And we're going to just paint that down nice and flat. I'm going to put a little glazing liquid in it. Come down over the top of those shapes, the mesa. Make sure you come down over the top of that. You don't want things to just meet, because then they'll look like cardboard. So we'll make sure we cover all of that. Put a little bit of glazing liquid and just cover right over that mesa outline. Just a really nice flat turquoise sky, just like you see on any given day in New Mexico. I guess 300 days of sunshine is about average for New Mexico. That's pretty darn good. Okay, let's mix up some beautiful muted browns and rusty reds for our mesas. Now I have the turquoise on my brush, so I'm just going to wipe my brush. I'm not going to even wash it. And I'm not bringing any water to my canvas or my palette. You really don't need it. So I've got this turquoise color here, and I'm gonna go into the Hansa or the benzimidazolone, whatever you've got. Put a little glazing liquid in that. Get a nice green going. Now I want to mute that. So if you look at the color wheel, if I've got a green over here, across the color wheel is going to be a red or a red violet. And that will mute this down. So I'm going to grab a little quin magenta. Look at that. Beautiful browny red that I've got there. And I don't think I have enough of it. So I'm really going to punch it up. First I'm going to go back over here and I'm going to make an orange. Let's make a lot of it. Because this particular color you can use for everything and just adjust it. So there we go. That's a little better. And now I'm going to put quite a bit of titanium white into that. Oh wow, look at that. Beautiful, beautiful earth color. That's what I want right there. And I'm just going to paint that down for my mesa. Now I might want that to be a little bit more orangey red. So let's get a little bit more quin up here and a little of the Hansa. Let's get that a little bit more orangey red. So I'm mixing up kind of a really rosy color, and I'm going to put it back into here, into that brown mixture. And that's more like what I wanted. I wanted something with a little bit more of that orangey glow to it. There we go. And that just looks great with that flat turquoise sky. Paint that down. Get a little bit of glazing liquid to make things nice and juicy. There we go. That looks good. And that's more the color I had in mind. Now I'm going to wipe my brush, and I'm not going to wash it. And I'm going to go into the titanium white. Get a nice lighter value of that same color. And then let's warm it up a little bit. Put a little bit of that yellow into it. We get something really close to maybe an ochre. And you know, we're mixing all of these colors with just these three. You really don't need more than that. Look at that. We've got a beautiful, pretty close to an ochre, maybe a raw sienna. And we're doing it all with those three colors. You can make all of these really pretty muted colors with just those three. So now it looks like I didn't make quite enough, but that's okay because I'm going to go back over here, grab this quin magenta that I have, and just pull it right into that color. Let's put a little titanium white in it, and just let it blend right on the canvas. A little bit of yellow. And honestly, if you actually look at those hills, for instance, out in Abiquiu, over by where Georgia O'Keeffe painted, they have these beautiful striations to them. They're not one color. Let's have a little bit more quin magenta. And just come in here, let that brush roll, and I'll show you what I'm doing from the side. So let's scoot over here so you can kind of see that. When I put that quin magenta on my brush, I just put the brush down and let it roll. And it will create these really pretty shifts in color. And it's not hard to do if you just let the brush do the work. So there you go. See, that gives you some really nice variations. Let's pull back a little bit of that. I got a little bit overzealous there. There we go. Now we've got a really nice middle ground there. I'm going to wipe my brush. And this one right here, I'm still in that mixture that we made, but I'm going to put some titanium white in there. Looks like I even picked up a little of that turquoise. Some titanium white. Let's load up the yellow, and now I've got a nice light yellow right here. I'm going to lay that down, and look at the really beautiful transitions we get there between those three hills. Let's go back to our quin magenta, a little bit of that Hansa or benzimidazoline, whichever yellow you're using. And I'm just going to come right through this wet paint with it. Just roll those colors in there. And look at those really nice transitions that you get if you just let the paint do the work. Just let the paint do it. There we go. Yum. Okay. I get all excited by paint. All right, now if you've been following along in these videos, you know that we're going to take a drying time break of about 5 minutes. I'm going to put this in front of a fan. If you want to heat up the drying time, speed up the drying time, not heat. If you want to speed up the drying time, you can use a hairdryer, but use it on cool. A hot hairdryer will crack the paint, and that's not a good look. So pause your video for 5 minutes, dry your layer of paint, and when we come back, we'll finish up. Okay, we're back, and now we're going to put in a little bit of some foliage and some desert type plants there. So in order to do that, I'm going to switch over to my number 6, rinse it, dry it on the paper towel, and let's make some muted greens. So we've got our phthalo blue and our Hansa yellow or benzimidazolone yellow, whichever yellow you have. Let's take a little bit of that phthalo, quite a bit of that yellow. That gives us a green, but it's going to be too bright. What we want to do is mute that down, and once again we're looking for that color across the color wheel, which would be a red. So we'll go into our Quin Magenta and mute that down. A little bit more Quin Magenta. Nice dark green, which is what we really want. Let's add a little titanium white over here. And I want to add a little bit more Quin Magenta over here. Wipe my brush. I want to add a little bit more Quin Magenta over here. I want something a little browner, and you'll see why in a minute. Okay, I'm going to wipe my brush. Now we want some little tiny bushes out in the distance here, so really small. So I've got my number 6 brush, and I'm just going to tap the tip of my brush. And if you look on when I do this from the side, you can see I'm just going to tap the tip of my brush. And that gives you these really tiny little shapes way off in the distance. Let's pick up some of that muted yellow. Do a couple more of these. They're going to be super tiny because they're way off in the distance. Just use the tip of your brush. Don't get carried away. You don't need to paint limbs and leaves and things like that. They're way off in the distance. Okay, let's get some of our green. And here in the middle ground, they're going to be a little bit bigger, but I'm just tapping with my brush. And I'm going to pick up a little bit of this yellow that I made, maybe this darker yellow. Just little tiny growing things. They're not going to be too recognizable because they're so out in the distance. Okay, now finally in the foreground we'll do something a little bigger, something that looks, it's a little bit closer to us. I'm going to start with this kind of dark yellow that I made. I'm going to pull some more of that yellow over here. And this is going to be a little bit bigger, so I'm just going to pat with my brush like this. Just going to pat, pick up a little green, bring that in. And if you've been in any of the videos, if you've watched any of the videos where I do trees, you'll know I'm going to say the same thing about these bushes. there's air. Don't fill everything up. I'm going to pull a few of these little leaves out like this, but don't fill up all the white space. You need to leave a little bit of air because these bushes and plants are not solid objects. So just make sure you don't just fill it all up. I'm going to grab a little bit of this lighter green. Now I'm pulling down with my brush now. Just pull down. Okay, so we have a sort of cactusy bush thing happening there. And I've said this before, people ask me sometimes, well, what kind of bush is that? And I say the same thing every time. I'm not a botanist, I'm a painter. I don't know what kind of bush it is. It's just right there in the beginning of my canvas. I couldn't tell you. So just add a few little small growing things there. Let's give this a little bit more of that green. And see, I've got this couple of different greens here. So you can use those greens around in different areas, but don't overdo it. You don't need much, you really don't. Give this guy a little bit more. There we go. That's just how hard that is. Okay, so that is our little desert painting for today. And you know, it took us, what, 17 minutes? So those are very simple little paintings that you can make for family and friends or for yourself. And they only take 3 colors and it doesn't take a lot of time. So join me in the next video in the series of our 12 days of painting. And remember what I always say, keep painting.